Hello, dear friends. Metaphor is sometimes the best way to explain what is happening. Opinion piece. Fall of Babylon. Deliverance from evil. Symbol of darkness. The world is upside down. The hour of judgment will come. Come out of her, my people. Prepare for the test. We live in Sin City. Let's start. Babylon was an ancient city in Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq. A strong symbolic value has been attributed to this great capital over time, making it a symbol of corruption and decadence. Babylon symbolically represents in Revelation the decadent, dehumanized, and perverted mercantile society. It attributes to Babylon more than a society, a real political power, which at the end of time will have seduced all the kings of the earth. In quotes. Jacques Ellul shows the biblical significance of the great city Babylon. In quotes. It is through the city that commerce functions. It is in the city that industry develops. It is through the city that fleas cross the seas. It is there that luxury and beauty flourish. It is there that power rises. It is there that everything is sold, the body and soul of humankind. Therefore, according to Ellul, all cities bear the symbol of Babylon. But Babylon doesn't represent only a geographical region. The Greek term Babylon is used 12 times in the New Testament. Its greatest incident is in the book of Revelation. It has Babylon as a symbol of the power of darkness that persecutes God's people in the time of the end. Babylon was a powerful and fearsome kingdom. Today, its ancient capital is nothing more than a heap of rubble. Revelation tells of a Babylon very different from the one described in the Old Testament. While this second Babylon also represents a powerful kingdom, it's also described as a woman sitting on a scarlet-colored beast full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. On her forehead was written a name, a sigil, a mystery. Babylon, the Great, the mother of harlots and of the abominations of the earth. And the woman whom you saw is the great city that reigns over the kings of the earth. Revelation foretells the fall of spiritual Babylon, just as in the time of Belshazzar's reign. In describing the 7 last plagues, John declares that God will remember Babylon and give her the wine of the fierceness of his wrath. He describes the great hostility of these powers to the point of becoming drunk with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And, in quotes this phrase, and that the hour of their judgment will come. In quotes again. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and God hath remembered her iniquities. Close quotes. The content of Daniel brings a reflection on the transitoriness of earthly kingdoms, the judgment of God, and points to the fall of end-time Babylon. Just as Cyrus conquered Babylon with his army, Jesus will put an end to spiritual Babylon and establish his eternal kingdom at his second coming. Therefore, in quotes, be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an hour you do not expect. Matthew 24:44. The fall of Babylon denotes the end of the new Babylonian Empire after Babylon was conquered by the Achaemenid Empire in 539 before Christ as the hands of Cyrus the Great. At the hands of Cyrus the Great. Both the Mesopotamian chronicles and the Cyrus Cylinder describe Babylon as being taken without battle, while the Greek historians Herodotus and Xenophon reported that the city was besieged by Cyrus' forces. The Book of Daniel, on the other hand, relates that Babylon was taken in a single night, and that Prince Balthasar was killed in the process. In another reconstruction, it is related that Nabonidus sent his son Balthasar to prevent the advance of the huge Persian army, however already massively outnumbered. Planetary liberation. Right now, the collapse of the central banking system is occurring, and we are witnessing the collapse of the old system. When this collapse is over, the whole world will be officially connected through the QFS quantum financial system. All financial scams will fall, which include food supply, energy, gas, oil, and internet spying, the dark web, corruption of governments and relations, etc. It all has to come down of its own weight to wipe the slate clean of all the darkness, so we can only wait patiently behind the scenes for a recovery similar to the one reported in Yesara's program, while everyone does their job. None of this is going to be easy, and much depends on the living beings awakening to their eternal essence, but I hope that we are closer than ever to the end, so that the promise of heaven can come. Wonderful things will come, such as abundance, technology, healing, rebuilding, etc. What we are witnessing now is a spectacular planetary deliverance from evil. It is a military operation, and not strictly an information war, but information is very much what we see. It is a spiritual war and interdimensional war. These theaters of war reside on this plane as well as others, according to BP Stashi Peth. First contact. The Storm Rider states that there will be a false first contact, but directly behind the false flag there will be a real and true contact. In quotes, you have been lied to all your life to control you, so the Great Awakening is much more than humankind can understand. It is a movement of love, not hate. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be filled. In a Fox News interview, Cash admits that he gave Musk $25 million to create rockets for the Department of Defense. This should indicate that Musk is a white hat. The QFS Starlink satellites are particle weapons that track every nuclear silo on Earth and can destroy every nuclear rocket launched in 2 seconds and vaporize it. The military has far surpassed the technology of the future in weapons, healing, space and time travel. It all connects to Tesla and Trump's uncle, John G. Trump. They are connected to time travel operations. They are hidden to this day by the Philadelphia experiment and the work and creation of time travel machines, and they are in full operation at Cheyenne Mountain and the Lake Geneva. Encrypted message in quotes. Only when evil is forced out into the open can we overcome it. Only when they can no longer operate in the shadow can living beings see the truth for themselves. Only when they see the truth for themselves will they understand the true nature of their deception. Seeing is believing. Sometimes you cannot tell the public the truth. You must show it. Only when Only then will people find the will to change. It had to be this way. It is not another 4-year election. God wins. One side talks about God. One party talks about darkness. One party promotes God. One party eliminates God. Symbolism will be their undoing. All assets deployed. Information warfare. Infiltration. Have faith in humankind. Have faith in yourself. We stand together. God wins. Close quotes. Supply crisis. First, in the last few years, a lot of strange things have been happening inside the central banking systems all over the world. There were banks run in China and Europe because those banks didn't have the money to pay what was in the accounts of private citizens. Since last weekend, there have been intermittent outages of ATMs. ATMs, yes, it's right. Second, food shortages and gasoline prices kept people struggling to just survive and create emotional response for more government assistance and dependence on those who wish us harm. Third, wheat, corn and soybeans rise in Chicago on uncertainty over Ukraine and heat that threatens the crop. 4. Last weekend, more than 3,000 cattle died suddenly on a ranch in southwestern Kansas. According to farmers, there is no plausible explanation for this mass die-off. Cases like this one are piling up. Final mortality figures already exceed 10,000. 5. U.S. housing starts fall to a 13-month low in May. 6. Right now, the housing bubble is in the process of a catastrophic collapse. The stock market is collapsing and the crypto universe is imploding. 7. While all assets are collapsing, the price of the things they need to buy continues to skyrocket. Everything people own is going to collapse in value, while almost everything people buy is going to double or triple in price. 8. Shipments of grain and metals could soon be leaving Mariupol. 9. Russia says it is helping Ukrainian food exports through the Sea of Azov. 10. Oil companies say the conflict in Ukraine is not the main cause of the rise in oil prices. Economy. First, global stocks fall again after central bank rate hike. Second, Wall Street plunges on fears of recession. Third, the New York Stock Exchange closes in the red and the Nasdaq falls by 4.08%. Fourth, falls return to Wall Street amid growing fears of the recession. 5. Gold rises 1% amid a sharp decline in the dollar. 6. Revlon files for bankruptcy due to the impact of internet competition. 7. Gregory Manarino. The Fed just bought a lot of debt overnight. The ECB will follow. 8. Nikkei rises 0.4% on relief after Fed rate hike. 9. US beefs up security for Supreme Court justices after threat to one of them. Cryptocurrency. First, Bitcoin hovers around $20,000 after days of free fall. Second, Bitcoin has lost 34% of its value in the last 9 trading days. Third, Ethereum falls more than 35% in just 1 week. Europe. First, stocks fall to 16-month lows after Swiss and UK rate hikes. Second, the Bank of England raises rates to 1.25%, the highest level since 2009. Third, Switzerland follows in the Fed's footsteps and raises interest rates by half a percentage point. Fourth, the Swiss National Bank surprises with its first rate hike in 15 years. 5. The ECB suffers a surprise shocks from Switzerland by sinking the German 10-year bond. The Swiss National Bank has unexpectedly punched it in the face. 6. The European Union takes legal actions against London for breaching the Northern Ireland Agreement. 7. The UK sanctions Patriarch Cyril for his support for the war in Ukraine. 8. European central banks raise interest rates to fight inflation. 9. The Euribor exceeds 1% for the first time in almost a decade and makes mortgages more expensive. 10. The ECB is ready to create a tool to curb the risk premium. 11. The ECB accelerates the design of a shield to defend Italy and Spain after an emergency meeting. 12. The flow of Russian gas to Europe falls, making it difficult to refill deposits. 13. Gazprom announced that gas deliveries to Europe will be reduced from 100 million cubic meters to 67 million cubic meters due to Siemens' failure to meet its equipment repair obligation. 14. Egypt and Israel will export natural gas to Europe after agreement with the European Union. 15. Scientists in the Netherlands against gas extraction in the North Sea. 16. The Faroe Islands dissociate themselves from Denmark and trade with Russia. Spain. Heatwave and drought multiply fires in Spain. Second, orange alert in 20 provinces of Spain due to the worst heatwave in the last 2 decades. In several points of the national territory, more than 40 degrees were registered. Third, Iberdrola leads the world in wind energy with more than 15 wind turbines in 400 wind farms. 4. Sanchez says that more than 1,000 electrolineras will be deployed in less than a year. 5. Electricity stations means electrolinera, electricity station. 5. The price of electricity continues to rise with a new increase of 4.15% despite the cap on gas. 6. The Spanish stock market falls 1.18% on fears of a recession due to the rise in interest rates. 7. The IBEX 35 loses all the ground it has gained and puts the 8,000 points at risk. Americas. First, fuel is cheaper in Venezuela, Bolivia, Colombia, and Ecuador. The most expensive is Peru. Second, third day of protests in Ecuador. Tension moves to the streets in Quito after the release of indigenous leader Leonidas Iza. A large caravan of community members arrived in the south of the capital to continue the protests against the increase in fuel prices. Third, the extinct giant tortoise is found alive in the Galapagos Islands. 4. López Obrador wants to eliminate daylight saving time. 5. López Obrador attributes recent violence to gang clashes. 6. Mexico will denounce the mining company Calica before the United Nations for ecological damage. 7. The US believes Mexico will open its door to private investment in the energy sector. 8. Bribes to journalists and plan for executions are the evidence for Garcia Luna to be tried in the US as an accomplice of the Sinaloa cartel. 9. The trial against Felipe Calderón's ex-secretary of security will begin in October. 10. The Brazilian ambassador tells the St. Petersburg Economic Forum that we must increase the flow of trade with or without the dollar, in quotes. 11. A court authorizes for the first time the cultivation of marijuana in Brazil. 12. Killer of missing journalist and anthropologist arrested in the Amazon. 13. Bolsonaro says missing Brighton was frowned upon in the Amazon, in quotes. 14. Argentina raises benchmark rate to 52% due to high inflation. 15. Argentina raises interest rates from 49% to 52%, the sixth increase in 2022. 16. The price of the dollar in Argentina hits a new record high on the informal market. 17. Moody's forecasts higher liquidity risk for Argentina's provinces. 18. Eduardo Ortuondo, former Falklands combatant, in quotes, it would have been impossible to avoid war because the British still have an imperial mentality. 19. Between the left or populism, the change that Colombia is waiting for. 20. 150 letters addressed to Garcia Marquez discovered. 21. The Dominican Republic launches its candidacy to the United Nations Human Rights Council. 22. Venezuelan parliament backs agreement signed by Maduro during his tour. 23. Chavez raises the salary of ministers in Costa Rica. Middle East. First, in northern Syria, cards once again in Erdogan's sights. Second, Russia believes that Turkey's plans for an operation in Syria are unreasonable, in quotes. Third, Russia expresses serious concern to Israeli ambassador over airstrikes in Syria. 4. Iranian resort island rocked by at least 7 earthquakes. 5. The European Union will allocate 3 billion euros for food sufficiency in the Middle East. 6. Algeria. Oran relies on local cycling to shine at the 19th Mediterranean Games. China. First, China's system collapses the stock market. Second, China buys US goods and meat from the European Union with surplus cash and causes massive inflation. Third, China's underclass demanding more meat and goods and brings the CCP to the brink of collapse. 4. China expects to devaluate its currency, which will affect the world stock market by more than 22% and destroy more than 250 million companies in the first 4 months. 5. Chinese leader Xi Jinping orders preparations for a military operation against Taiwan. 6. The US rejects China's call for the Taiwan Strait to be an international waterway. 7. The big real estate conglomerate Evergrande is bankrupt in China and delisted from the stock market yesterday, Thursday, 16th June. 8. China's banking protest stopped because health codes were read, depositories say. 9. Xi Jinping tells Putin he's ready to help resolve Ukraine crisis. Rumors of war. First, Russia destroyed the last bridge in Severodonetsk. Second, Russia is attacking on 9 fronts but with a focus on Severodonetsk. Third, the United Nations is ready to support the evacuation of civilians from the Azot plant. 4. The battle for Donbass could prove decisive in the war in Ukraine. 5. Ukraine defies Russia's ultimatum to hand over the eastern city of Severodonetsk. 6. Kiev halted negotiations with Moscow on the orders of the controllers according to Russia. 7. The European Union will press Kiev on territorial concessions. 8. Kiev may have to give up territory for peace deal, according to NATO's Stoltenberg. 9. Lavrov believes that everything that is happening is not so much about Ukraine, but about the world order and the place that each country will occupy in it. In quotes, the Russian foreign minister denounced that all current Western efforts are aimed at containing the multipolar world. 10. Russia is using Ukraine as a research field for new weapons, according to Kiev. 11. Biden announces $1 billion more in weapons for Ukraine with sophisticated rockets. 12. Pentagon says it is supplying heavy guided missiles to Ukraine. 13. The US military is running out of sophisticated Javelin anti-tank missiles after sending thousands to Ukraine. 14. Europol fears that weapons sent to Ukraine could end up in the hands of criminals. 15. General Milley characterized the current phase of the war as, in quotes, a very severe battle of attrition, almost like the First World War. 16. Ukraine's dream of recapturing Kherson depends on Western arms. 17. Pope says war in Ukraine perhaps provoked or not prevented. 18. After repeatedly denying the existence of Ukrainian biolabs, the Pentagon finally admits to running 46 of them. 19. The US military will double the strength of its cyber corps. 20. The Air Force uses artificial intelligence for weather control. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.